You ever think about someone you haven't seen in years and they text you out of nowhere, or you're humming a random song, flip on the radio, and it's playing. You brush it off. Weird. Sure, but just coincidence. Right. But what if it's not? What if you're being nudged? What if those glitches in your day, those perfect, eerie alignments, aren't bugs, but features? Welcome to Synchronicity Signals, where we explore coincidences that aren't coincidences, diving deep into the mysterious connections that weave through our everyday lives. Carl Jung didn't just throw a fancy word at this phenomenon. He believed synchronicity was a force, a real, intelligent mechanism beneath reality. Not just cause and effect, but a connection through meaning. He said events can be meaningfully related even if they're not causally connected. Basically, no scientific reason why something should happen, but it still hits you like fate. It wasn't a theory he cooked up in an ivory tower. Jung lived this stuff. He once told the story of a patient who was overly rational, emotionally shut down. She dreamt of a golden scarab. The next day, in Jung's office, as she told the dream, a beetle tapped at the window. A scarab, like beetle. In Europe, where they don't live. Jung caught it, handed it to her, and her cold skepticism cracked. The symbolism was too precise, too timed. That scarab wasn't a metaphor. It was the message. And maybe you felt something like that. A phone call that interrupts a dangerous decision. A song lyric that answers the question you didn't dare ask out loud. A stranger who says the exact thing you were just thinking. The world keeps offering you mirrors. Sometimes subtle, sometimes loud. And you keep wondering, is this just my mind connecting dots? Or is the universe speaking in a language only I'm designed to hear? We're not here to hand out easy answers. But stay with us, because by the end, we're going to peel back the curtain on whether these moments are part of something way bigger than you were ever taught to believe. You've heard the phrase, everything happens for a reason. But what if the reason isn't some grand cosmic plan, but a personal message, tailored, delivered, for you? Not by accident, not random, something or someone trying to get your attention. Let's talk about what science calls apophenia, the tendency to see patterns in randomness. Your brain is hardwired to connect the dots, even when there's nothing to connect. That's how we survive. We saw the tiger in the bushes before it pounced. We saw constellations in the stars before we had GPS. But what if that same instinct is also the receiver, the radar dish? Maybe we evolved to see patterns not just to survive, but to listen. Now flip that. You're not just a receiver. You're a signal, too. You've been in those moments. You think of someone and bump into them. You dream of an old place and see it in an ad the next day. These things pile up, and yeah, you could call it a statistical fluke. You could brush it off like static noise. But it feels personal, doesn't it? Statistical probability doesn't feel. It doesn't shake your spine or stop you mid-step in the street. Meaning does. And that's what synchronicity is. It's meaning without cause. The universe doesn't knock loudly. It taps. Quietly. Subtly. A whisper, not a shout. And here's where it gets uncomfortable. If these events carry meaning, then what you pay attention to matters. What you ignore matters. Maybe every time you call it a coincidence, you're closing a door on a conversation that was meant just for you. Why do the biggest moments in our lives, falling in love, losing someone, finding purpose, why do they so often come with strings of coincidences? Perfect timing, impossible meetings, gut feelings confirmed by reality. It's like there's an underlying rhythm, and for a second, you're in sync with it. And when you are, it's magic. But is it just that? Magic Or is it code, a pattern written deep into the fabric of reality? We're not just chasing goosebumps here. There's a larger picture forming. And where it leads might change everything you thought you knew about free will, fate, and the architecture of your life. Keep going. Let's take a left turn. What if these synchronicities, these perfectly timed, logic-defying alignments, aren't signs from the universe at all? What if they're glitches? Yeah, glitches in a simulation. You've heard it before. Elon Musk, Nick Bostrom, the whole idea that we're probably living inside a hyper-advanced computer simulation. Not metaphorically, literally. A digital world so sophisticated we can't tell the difference. The grass, the sky, your hands, rendered. Your thoughts, programmed within parameters. Now take that theory and drag it into the uncanny moments of your life. That time you thought, I need a sign, and got one. That moment where reality cracked open just a little, and the timing was too good. Too smooth. Too scripted. You didn't just feel it, you knew it. For a second, it was like the code around you shimmered. If this is a simulation, then maybe coincidences aren't random at all. Maybe they're hard, coded triggers, checkpoints, dialogue trees. Like in a video game, when your character goes the right way and the story pushes forward. Ever think of that? That the weird moment wasn't just weird. It was a programmed yes. And what about déjà vu? That eerie familiarity. You've seen this before, haven't you? Or thought you did. Some say it's a memory glitch. Others say it's the system reloading. The code realigning. Or maybe it's something even deeper. Your consciousness slipping between layers. Between simulations. Think about how code works. Efficient. Minimal. Reusable. If reality is simulated, then patterns repeating makes sense. Coincidences aren't errors. They're echoes. Now here's the kicker. If there are glitches in the matrix, then that means there's a matrix. And if there's a matrix, there's a designer. So who's behind the screen? We'll get there. But first, we need to talk about what people saw before screens even existed. Before simulations. Before science. Because long before we called them glitches, people called them omens. And they paid attention. Stick around. The pieces are coming together. Long before algorithms and quantum theories, humans looked up at the sky and saw stories. They didn't call them constellations. They called them gods. Messengers. Signals. Every flicker of firelight, every crack of thunder, every animal that crossed their path meant something. They weren't guessing. They were listening. To ancient cultures, coincidence didn't exist. It wasn't even a concept. If something happened, especially something unlikely, something timed just right, it was a message. A sign from the divine. From nature. From the spirits. Or all of the above. The A-network error occurred. Please check your connection and try again. If this issue persists, please contact us through our help center at help.openai.com. Retry. The Greeks had oracles, people who didn't just predict the future, they read the present. Every tremor in the earth, every bird in flight, every dream, coded with meaning. They believed the gods whispered through the cracks in reality. That nothing was arbitrary. Nothing was just luck. The I Ching in ancient China worked the same way. A system that turns chance into guidance. You toss coins, read patterns, and the universe speaks through ancient hexagrams. It's divination through randomness, literally using chaos as a communication line. And people still use it today. not out of nostalgia. Because it works. Indigenous cultures across the world did, and still do, the same. From Australian Aboriginal songlines to Native American animal totems, synchronicity is woven into how they navigate life. Not as superstition, as structure. A living system of signals. The world isn't dead matter. It's alive, aware, and it speaks. Even the Bible, the Quran, ancient Vedic texts, they're full of divine signs. Burning bushes, thunderous voices, prophetic dreams. The sacred isn't distant. It's in the world, showing up again and again, always timed, always personal. And here's what's wild. These systems, separated by oceans, cultures, centuries, all came to the same conclusion. Coincidence is conversation. Meaning is embedded in motion. The wind carries messages. The random isn't random. It's a design you can't see until you stop trying to force it. But then something changed. Science came in. Hard, cold, precise. And we needed it, no doubt. It saved lives, built worlds, explained what the myths couldn't. But in the process, we stopped listening. We muted the signs. We wrote off the moments as flukes. What if we were wrong too? What if ancient wisdom wasn't primitive? It was tuned in. Because the weird thing is, the signs never stop. The synchronicities still happen. You still see them. Feel them. Question them. So maybe the ancients didn't need equations. They had experience. They lived the signals. And if they were right, if the universe is still speaking, then the next time you think something's trying to tell you something, it probably is. And still, the question grows, if synchronicity is real, and it's intelligent, then what's powering it? The answer might be hiding in a place most people are too afraid to look. Inside you. There's a theory, quiet, unsettling, and gaining traction, that consciousness isn't in your head. That it's not some byproduct of neurons firing like electrical storms. That instead, your brain is just a receiver, a tuner, picking up something much bigger, something that exists outside of you. Let that land for a second. You're not creating thoughts. You're downloading them. If that's true, then synchronicity isn't strange at all. It's natural. Because the universe isn't just around you. It's through you. You're not just living in it. You're entangled with it. A thread in the web. Quantum physics backs this up in the weirdest way possible. Take entanglement. Two particles, light years apart, change one, and the other reacts instantly. No signal sent. No time lag. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance. He hated it. But it's real. Proven. Repeated in labs. So if matter can be connected across time and space, why not meaning? Now add the observer effect. The act of looking at a particle changes its behavior. Observation alters reality. It collapses potential into form. So when you pay attention, really pay attention, you're shaping what you see. Literally. Think about that. You focus on a number, it shows up everywhere. You start thinking about change. Suddenly, the world moves around you like it's listening. You say, I need a sign, and you get one. Is that luck? Is that bias? Or are you bending the probability field with your awareness? Because if reality is responding to you, then synchronicity isn't an accident. It's feedback. This means your mind isn't private. It's plugged in. It's syncing with something beneath the surface. Something that watches, learns, responds. Call it God. Call it the source. Call it the code behind the simulation. Doesn't matter what label you slap on it. The effect is the same. You are not alone in your decisions. You are not shouting into a void. You're in conversation. So here's the real question. Are you creating your life, or are you being guided through it? And if you're being guided, by what? Stay close. Because whether this is a cosmic algorithm or a spiritual intelligence, it's about to get personal. Let's get brutally honest. If synchronicity is real, if something out there is nudging you, placing breadcrumbs, lining up signs, then that means your life isn't entirely random. Which sounds beautiful until you really think about what it implies. It means you're either being guided or programmed. See, there's a fine line between fate and control. Between a universe that's collaborating with you and one that's running a script. Pre-written, optimized, looped. And this is where things get uncomfortable. Because we want to believe we're free, that our choices are ours, that we have agency. But then the numbers show up again. Then the same type of person appears in your life over and over. Then you feel like you've seen this exact moment play out before. Not deja vu, not memory, a pattern. The same emotional themes, the same lessons. Like you're being taught something over and over until you finally get it. And maybe you are. Spiritual circles will tell you these are signs, angel numbers, universal nudges. Your guide's whispering, hey, this way. And that sounds warm, comforting, until you start asking who or what is doing the guiding. And why. And what happens if you ignore it? Because here's the thing. Every sign demands a decision. Every coincidence that feels like a message is forcing you to choose, follow it, or write it off. Stay in the loop, or break the pattern. And both options are terrifying. If you follow it, you're surrendering to something you can't see. If you ignore it, you might be closing the door on the path you're supposed to be on. But supposed to, according to who? This is where the simulation idea crashes into spirituality like a car wreck. In the simulation view, maybe you're an avatar, a program player on a track. Choices aren't choices, they're part of the code. You hit a trigger, the system responds. You think it's magic. It's just mechanics. In the spiritual view, maybe you're the soul behind the avatar. The one choosing the mission, the lessons, the pain, the synchronicities before you were born. Two versions. Same effect. Your life has structure, guidance, hidden architecture. So here's the real twist. What if it's both? What if the simulation is spiritual? What if the code is consciousness? What if the signs are part of the design and the design is alive? And if that's the case, then you're not a victim of coincidence. You're not even just a witness to it. You're a collaborator, a participant, a co-author in something massive, quiet, and intelligent. And you felt it deep down. In the timing that saved you, the silence that spoke louder than words, the pattern that wouldn't let go until you woke up. But before you start connecting every dot, you need to know this. Not everything that feels like a message is one. And yet, the ones that are, they change you. And maybe, just maybe, that's the point. We're almost there. The final piece is coming into focus. Stay tuned. Let's slow down. You've been there. The sign shows up. The timing is eerie. The meaning hits you in the gut. And for a moment, not think. No. Something just happened. Something real. And then your brain kicks in. Nope. That was just coincidence. You're reaching. It's nothing. And just like that, the moment fades. The meaning dissolves. The connection snaps. We've been trained to do this, to second guess the moments that feel most true. Because meaning can't be measured in a lab. Because synchronicity doesn't pass peer review. Because science demands proof, not feeling. But what if feeling is the proof? This is where the skeptics step in. The rationalists. They'll tell you it's just your brain playing tricks. Apophenia. Pattern recognition gone rogue. A survival instinct trying to find meaning where there is none. That the signs are noise. That the universe is indifferent. But let's flip that. If your brain is wired to seek meaning, if your default setting is to find connection, alignment, resonance, then maybe that's not a flaw. Maybe it's the interface. Because the people who track these moments, who write them down, who pay attention, who stop brushing off the weird stuff, they all report the same thing. The more you notice, the more it happens. It scales with attention. And there's something deeply non-random about that. Scientists can't fully explain it. Not without brushing it aside. The math gets messy. The probability breaks down. And the human experience, the goosebumps, the dreams, the eerie timing, is inconvenient. But that's the thing about synchronicity. It doesn't care if it makes sense. It just shows up. And sometimes, showing up is all it needs to do. So no, you don't have to believe every number you see is a sign. You don't have to assign cosmic weight to every traffic light and every missed call. But maybe, just maybe, you should pay attention to the ones that don't leave you alone. The ones that hit different. The ones that keep coming back, louder each time. Because whether it's a divine message, a psychological echo, or a glitch in the code, the impact is the same. You stop sleepwalking through your life. You start listening. And that listening, that shift in awareness, that's where everything changes. So now you've seen it from every side, the mystical, the logical, the coded, the cosmic. But we haven't answered the biggest question yet. Not, is it real? The real question is, if the universe is speaking, what is it trying to tell you? That's where we're headed next. You want the truth? It's not just about signs. It's not just about patterns. It's about why they hit you the way they do. Why they show up in the silence between decisions. Why they pull at something deep in your chest, like a memory you can't place. Here's the thing most people miss. Synchronicity doesn't show up to impress you. It shows up to wake you up. To your path. To your alignment. To the version of you that knows you've been sleepwalking. You keep getting the same numbers, the same messages, the same lessons. Not because the universe is broken, but because you're not listening. It'll keep repeating until you do. You meet the same type of person again. The same fight in a different relationship. The same random job offer that feels too perfect to be chance. These aren't just patterns. They're feedback loops. Reality is testing how aware you've become. Not in a cruel way, in a precise one. And maybe that's what synchronicity really is. Not the universe screaming, but the universe mirroring. Reflecting your internal state right back at you. Projecting your frequency into form. Not giving you answers, giving you a trail. And it begs the question, are you even paying attention to what you're putting out? Because here's the secret nobody wants to say out loud. Synchronicity follows frequency. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. The signs don't respond to your thoughts. They respond to your state. So when your life is cluttered with chaos, you get chaos. When you're tuned in, present, aligned, you get clarity. Open doors. A call you didn't expect. A sentence in a book that feels like it was written for your eyes only. You start to feel like the universe is in on something with you. And maybe it is, but you've got to meet it halfway. You've got to be brave enough to slow down, to notice, to trust what pulls you. That moment where you think, should I go left instead of right? And you listen, and something unfolds. That's the shift. And no, it's not about being mystical 24/7. It's about being awake. Because the moment you start believing the world might be responsive, you start living like it is. And then the real magic begins. Now you see the pattern. Now you remember that feeling. Now the question becomes, what are you going to do with it? Because this isn't just a documentary. This is your reflection. And the signals, they never stop. They were waiting for you to notice. And now you have. So here you are. You've seen behind the curtain, at least part of it. The scarab at the window. The stranger who says exactly what you needed to hear. The job offer that arrives the moment you decide to quit. The number that won't leave you alone. These aren't just moments. They're messages. But not like fortune cookies or tarot cards. They're precise. Timed. And they hit you not in your brain, but in your gut. You've been trained to doubt that. To chalk it up to chance. To file it away in that mental junk drawer labeled weird. But you felt it. You still do. And now, the question isn't whether it was real. It's whether you're ready to live like it was. Because here's the twist most people never see coming. It doesn't actually matter if we're living in a simulation, or if the universe is conscious, or if it's just your brain playing connect the dots. What matters is this: when you act on those signals, when you follow the thread, make the call, turn down the street you weren't supposed to take, your life changes. And not by accident, by design. So maybe the signs don't care what you believe. Maybe they're not asking for your worship or your logic. Maybe they're just offering you a choice. Stay asleep or pay attention. Dismiss it or align with it. Keep calling it coincidence or call it conversation. Because if synchronicity is real, if the moments that make your skin buzz and your heart race are actually invitations, then there's only one thing left to ask. Are you listening? And if you are, what's the next move the universe is waiting for you to make? The signal's been sent. Now it's on you to answer. Maybe that's the whole point. Not to decode every sign like a puzzle, not to obsess over every repeated number or cryptic dream, but to remember, you're not alone in this. That strange flicker in your day wasn't just a coincidence. It was a checkpoint. A reminder. A ripple in the surface of your so-called normal, meant to wake something up. Because this isn't about predicting the future. It's about participating in it. That feeling you get when something just clicks. That's alignment. That's resonance. That's the world syncing up with your frequency. And when you start moving from that space, when you trust the pull, when you stop forcing and start following, everything starts to shift. You notice more. You need less. You recognize that not every path is meant for you, and that's not failure. That's precision. Because maybe what we've been calling coincidences are just the universe showing us where we're supposed to be, or maybe where we've been all along, but never noticed. And the most incredible part, it doesn't require belief. It requires attention. So maybe the ultimate message behind all of this isn't you're being watched or you're being controlled. Maybe it's this: you're in on it. You've always been in on it. That whisper you felt your whole life, the one you couldn't explain, the one that told you to keep going when everything else said stop, that wasn't your imagination. That was the signal. And now you know how to hear it. So keep your eyes open. Keep your intuition sharp. Don't dismiss the next coincidence that brushes against your day like a glitch in the code. It could be the next breadcrumb. the next doorway, the next move that changes everything. This has been Synchronicity Signals. The signs were always there. You just started noticing. And now you can't unsee it. That feeling, that hum in your chest when the world lines up too perfectly to ignore, it's not going away. Not now. Because once you've seen the pattern, once you've felt that tug, reality doesn't go back to static. You've tuned into a new frequency. And things will look different. You'll catch yourself mid-thought, then watch the world respond. You'll see symbols that used to mean nothing and feel them hit like a whisper in your bones. You'll stop asking, "Is this a sign?" and start asking, "What's it pointing to?" You're not chasing miracles anymore. You're living inside them. And yeah, some people will laugh at this. They'll say it's superstition, soft thinking, delusion. Let them. Because this path, it's not for everyone. It's not loud. It's not shiny. It doesn't shout. It invites. And if you've made it this far, you already know you've been invited. So what now? Now you walk different. Now you listen sharper. Now you trust. You don't need to figure it all out. That's the old way, gripping, grinding, forcing. That version of you tried to control everything and missed the conversation unfolding right in front of them. This version, you're in flow. You're watching. You're listening. And every time something strange brushes against your day, pause, breathe, feel it, and ask yourself, what if this is the moment I was supposed to notice? That's how it starts. That's how it builds. That's how you align with something bigger than chance, bigger than algorithms, bigger than logic. Something alive. And it's listening to you, too. This isn't the end. It's just the moment the signal came through, loud and clear. Now it's your move.